So we're ready to share our project with some outside recipient, and we would like to print out a set. To do that, we can just go directly to print and print really any of the views that we like in our project, but the most common way to print out a project is to print the sheets. So in the last movie, we looked at setting up sheets, and if you followed along there, then you've seen the process, and we've set up a bunch of sheets. And so now we're ready to print out those sheets and present them to a recipient. So I'm in a file called plotting, and I'm looking at sheet A1 at the moment. And I'm going to zoom in on it just so we can talk about a few things when we get to the print dialog. So let me just zoom in and put it over here for the time being. And to get to the print command, we're going to go to the application menu. So if you recall, that's the big R menu over here. We'll just click that. We'll come down and highlight print. Don't click on it. We're just going to highlight it there. And you actually have 3 commands here: print, print preview, and print setup. Now, it turns out you can get to print preview and print setup from the print dialog. So I'm going to do everything in this one dialog right here. So I'm going to go to print here, and I'll click that. Now, the dialog will appear, and I'm going to move it out of the way so we can see that zoomed in portion of the drawing that we had open in the background. The first thing you want to do is choose your plotter. Now, I'm just choosing Adobe PDF at the moment, so I'm going to make a digital plot. And naturally, the choices that I have on my list will vary from the ones that you have on your list. It really depends on what kind of printing device you have available. But Revit can print to any device: a laser printer, an inkjet printer, a full-size plotter. So you want to choose the device that you typically print from. And if necessary, you click over here on the Properties button and configure the device-specific settings for that device. So naturally, the options that would be available over here on Properties will vary depending on what you choose here. So the next area you want to consider is this print range area. Now, there's 3 options here. Now, current window would do the entire sheet that I have open up on screen out to its full extent. Because I've zoomed in on a smaller area of the view, however, I could also choose the visible portion of the current window. And if I chose that, then Revit will only print the part that I'm zoomed in on. Or I could choose this option here, which is usually the most common option: selected views and sheets. That's going to give me a list, and I'm going to be able to choose one or more views or sheets that I want to print. So if I click the select button here, I'll get a complete list that's available here. Now, you can actually save lists. So I previously created one called Current Sheet Set, and if you scroll down here, you'll see some of the items are checked, and of course, some of them are not. Complete Sheet Set is actually doing all of the sheets and none of the views. Notice down here we have 2 filters. If I wanted to, I could vary this sheet set a little bit. Let's say that I'm only interested in the plans and the elevations. So I could uncheck the sections, uncheck all of this other stuff here. In fact, you can hold down the Shift key and do a selection and uncheck that way. It's a little faster. Once I do that, I can do Save As. And so now I have 2 different sets. This one, which is just the plan and elevation sheets, and this one, which is the complete sheet set. So whichever one you want, you can choose it off the list, and it just makes the selections a little bit easier the next time you come in this dialog. Let me click OK. Now, I mentioned that we could get to page setup from the print dialog. So here's the button right here. And let me move this out of the way as well. It confirms again that I'm using Adobe PDF at the top. For the paper size, I have lots of choices. So right now I'm using Arc E1, which is my full-size sheet here. But I could also choose any of the other sheet sizes that are available. Maybe I want to go down to a tabloid and do a 50% reduction. Maybe I really want to reduce it down just to a letter size. But I'm going to stick with Arc E1, the full-size sheet. And then what you want to do down here under Zoom is make sure that Zoom 100% is chosen. If you choose Fit to Page, it will actually scale the sheet to fit the available paper. And even on Arc E1, that might actually force it to scale slightly, and it might be a little bit off. So always make sure that you do Zoom 100%. If you want to do a half-size set, do Zoom 50%. So there's a couple different ways that you can approach this, but I'm going to stick with 100% here. Now, over here on the right-hand side, I want to stick with landscape orientation. Vector processing is usually higher quality for line drawings, so I'm going to stick with that since most of my drawings are line drawings. I have a couple renderings or 3D views that are shaded, so that's where these quality settings come in, but I'm just going to accept the defaults right there. Now, down here under Options, we have a few really interesting options. Now, we don't have all of these items in our project, but generally speaking, if you see an element on screen, it will print. The few exceptions are the ones that say hide right here. We don't have any scope boxes or reference planes shown in the current view, so it doesn't matter what we choose there. But we do have a crop boundary and an unreferenced view tag. Now, the unreferenced view tag is this guy right here. That view tag is not yet on the sheet, so that's considered an unreferenced view tag. Compare that to this section marker here and this call out right here. Those are referenced view tags. So if I check this box, Revit will hide this one when it prints, but these two will continue to display. You don't want to get a phone call from your recipient asking you where this detail is if you didn't include it in the set. Now, the crop region is a little bit off the screen, but you remember that that's that rectangle that surrounds the drawing that crops it down to a certain size. If you have this box checked, even if you forgot to turn it off, it still plots invisible. So that's a handy one to keep checked. So I'm going to check hide unreferenced and hide crop regions. And then when I click OK here in page setup, it will ask me if I want to save these settings for future use. Now you can do that and give it a name that would appear right here. So if these are your most common settings and you want to use them over and over again, go ahead and say yes. In this case, I'm just going to say no to save a few clicks. And then if I'm ready to print, I like everything I see, I can click OK and make the print. So in my case, I'm just going to click close, but feel free to click OK and actually generate a paper plot or a PDF, whatever printer you've chosen, and see what the final result is. So as you can see, the process of going through the print dialog and the page setup dialog is fairly straightforward. It's pretty similar to other Windows-based programs. And once you get the settings the way you want, a nice, unique feature to Revit is you can save not only the list of views and sheets that you're printing for future use, but you can also save all the settings in the page setup dialog for future use. And that makes your work in there that much quicker the next time.